So we got all our plots in. We're all good to go now. It was a multiple day process, you know, doing all the prep work, getting everything tilled up, seed in. But we're all good to go now, so it's just a waiting game and see, you know, how it turns out. So follow along here. I'll go ahead and take you through the whole process of everything that we did. And then after this, hopefully I'll do some follow-ups and kind of show you how everything turned out here coming into the season, planting fall food plots. So the plan is to try to get food plots in tonight, but it actually just started to rain a little bit. Hopefully it's not going to do anything. So I still need to till. Got my 3-point tiller here. So hopefully it doesn't rain much, otherwise we're gonna kind of be out of luck here and have to do this another time. Let's see what happens. So it is really dry out. So it had rained just a little tiny bit. I was hoping it didn't get started, and it didn't. So we kind of lucked out there. So I was able to till this up. But there is rain in the forecast for later tonight and then again tomorrow. So that's why I'm kind of in a rush to get this done. Should already have it done, but it is what it is. You know, I wish I had a drill, but again, I don't. So I have a 3-point tiller, so I'll till everything up and then we'll just broadcast and I'll roll it. Might do a chain drag or just go over with a roller. I usually chain drag, but the way this is looking, I think I may just try going over with a roller, so I don't bury the seed too deep. But it really, I mean, this 3-point tiller does do a good job. I mean, you can see. Yeah, that was just one pass over, but it's definitely dry. But we got to get the seed in the ground, and hopefully this rain here tonight and tomorrow will get things on the right path. So dodged a bullet with the rain. Got all the ground tilled up in the fields, down in the woods, the plot. So there's 4 total plots. Got the ground worked up for all of them. So I'm ready to seed. This year I'm going to be planting kind of a variety of stuff. The main thing I'm going to be using is wheat. This is what is called like an awnless, or some might refer to it as beardless. The salesman called it smooth. I think there's a number of different ways. So this wheat is basically, when it goes to grain, it's a little more palatable, or a lot more palatable for the deer, and I believe other livestock as well. So I try to stick with that. With that being said, planting in the fall, this is not going to go to grain. So as far as hunting season is concerned, you know, all I'm really looking for is that young green growth. So if you're out there, you're trying to find a smooth wheat to plant, don't worry about it if your only concern is, you know, hunting in the fall and the winter, because it's not going to matter if it's smooth or not. The deer aren't going to care. Now, come springtime, when this continues to grow and shoots up, that is when that would come into play. So nobody's hunting in the spring, so if you're not really worried about, you know, the deer eating the wheat in the spring, then it doesn't matter what kind you get. So we're going to plant the weed. That's going to be, you know, the main staple. I also have a bag of Dixie Crimson Clover. So I had a little bit of that in the mix last year, and I really liked it. I thought it turned out well. In the spring, I thought it was, you know, really pretty. Made the fields look nice where I had it planted. And that was just, you know, it was a pretty low seed rate in the mix. So I'm going to plant it a little bit heavier this year. And then, you know, it helps the soil as well, just tilling that in next year. So going to go with the clover, the wheat, and then I'm going to mix up on the plots what I'm planting this year. I've got both Whitetail Institute, both products are from Whitetail Institute. One is Beets and Green, and the other is Tine Tubers. Haven't used it before, so I want to give it a try. You know, I'm not, you know, holding true to a certain brand or anything like that. I'm just kind of experimenting with, you know, what works best here and what the deer like. So I wanted to try something different this year. So these Tine Tubers, 55% Tine turnip, 10% purple top turnip, and then some other stuff. And then it's got 34% coating. So a lot of this bag is not actually seed, it's just a coating. This Beets and Greens. So it's 25% radish, 19% kale, 17% annual rape, 14% sugar beet, 3% Tine turnips, some other stuff, and then 19% coating. So not quite as much coating, but still a decent amount. So the ground was really dry when I was tilling it up. There was one plot that I have never planted before. I had sprayed it twice to kill everything down. You know, it was scorched. The dry there, or the ground there, was just like dust. I mean, it was super dry. The plot up here that I had planted, I believe it was Deadly Dozen, Real World Deadly Dozen in last year. That did really well, but the soil, it was just holding a lot more moisture. So I don't know if that's because what I had in there last year. In addition to the Deadly Dozen, I put some additional radish in there, I believe, and I think I planted a little bit of wheat in there as well. So I didn't have quite enough of the real world seed to cover that entire area. And then down here in the woods, I tilled up a new spot for this year. Had my dad sitting there last year. It's a really good spot, but you know, it's always nice to have a food plot. Just kind of makes it enjoyable to sit there. Doesn't necessarily make the hunting better all the time, but you know, they're fun. So I have this spot down here. I went ahead, I sprayed it once. I didn't get 2 sprayings on it. it was basically, everything was dead. There was a little bit of green in there, but for the most part, everything was dead. However, you know, there was really thick grass in through there, basically like a mat. So I took the Steiner through earlier today on my lunch break, and I mowed it all down before I tilled. So that helped a little bit, but there's a good bit of thatch through there. So hopefully when I seed that, the seed gets good soil contact. That's my only concern with that. However, that thatch will help it. You know, they're calling for rain tonight and tomorrow. That will help it hold the moisture, keep the ground from drying out. So as long as I can get good seed to soil contact, we should be good. So most of the time when I'm planting, I'm tilling up the ground with a 3-point tiller, and then I'm broadcasting the seed. Once I have the seed spread, I'll take a chain harrow, drag that through the field behind the four-wheeler, the tractor, or whatever, and just kind of cover that seed up. However, with as loose as this soil is, I really think the seed's just going to get a little too deep. So I do not think I'm going to do anything. I'm just going to seed it, and then I might, you know, run back and forth with the four-wheeler, or you know, I've got like a poly roller. I can throw some water in. I don't want to pack the ground, but I'm not going to do much. I may just seed it and let it go, and hopefully this rain that's coming, we get a good heavy rain, and it kind of you know, forces that seed down in the ground. So one thing when you're broadcast seeding is you're always going to want to use a heavier rate. So for this wheat, you know, you're probably looking at 100 to 150 pounds an acre. All the plots that I'm doing are pretty small, and it might, with all four combined, might total an acre. So I mean, they're pretty small plots, but there's enough other stuff around that the deer aren't going to necessarily you know, wipe them out. You know, the majority of what I got is soybeans. Half my field planted in soybeans, the other half in corn, and plus all the stuff in our garden that they like to eat. So they've got plenty to eat. So it's getting pretty late. I think I'm gonna go ahead and try to just do this even if it's dark. I'm gonna just show you something. I don't generally like to mix seeds. I like to plant individual seeds, plant the wheat, and plant the clover, and plant these other things. And it just feeds at a more consistent rate. But if you notice, right there is the clover seeds. They would be like the brown, yellow, and the blue is the tall tine tubers. So it's very, very similar. Now, over here, it's kind of a, I mean, this is a mix, so there's some larger pieces in there. But I think I'm going to go ahead and, because it's so late, I'm going to go ahead and mix this and just try to get it in here yet tonight, because I really like to catch this rain. So it got too dark on me last night, so I had to call it quits before I got finished. So the last thing I have is the beets and greens. Got to get that planted. I believe I'm just going to put this in 2 plots. So I'm going to get this in and then I'll be done. And I'm just going to throw in a little extra clover just for good measure. Why not? Not really stirring that in. That's just going to mix in there as I'm driving. So it's a pretty small seed. So let's get this in the ground. So I have somebody that wanted to watch me plant. I'm not really an owl expert, so I don't know what kind of owl that is, but it's pretty cool. So we got all the seed in the ground. I do still have some wheat and clover left. The clover, I'm going to wait until the beans start to turn yellow, and I'm gonna go through and broadcast the clover through the bean field. I may do the same with some wheat, or maybe some other brassicas as well if I pick some more up. But the wheat that I have, I'll probably come back over these plots again maybe in 1 or 2 weeks, and that'll do 2 things for me. So one, that'll act as like a little insurance to make sure, you know, if this doesn't take, planting again in another 2 weeks, you know, it would give me another opportunity for this to do something. The other thing is, which is hopefully going to be the case, is everything that I've planted does well, but that'll give a 2-week difference in growth. So I'll have some wheat that's coming up, and then I'll have some younger wheat that may be more palatable to the deer at a certain period of time. So now that these are planted, I'm basically done. I mean, there's not really a whole lot I can do. You know, I think I had already mentioned that, you know, I would typically either drag this or roll it. I'm not doing that. What I planted the first evening did get a decent rain on top of it. We didn't get a lot, but it was enough kind of settle it into the ground, so that's good. But as far as weeds or anything like that's concerned, there's nothing I can really do at this point. I sprayed good beforehand, but you know, none of the stuff I'm planting, you know, is strictly Roundup ready or anything like that. So, you know, whatever it is, it is. And hopefully I did a good enough job that, you know, this doesn't get overtaken with weeds. The one plot down in the woods, you know, that's a possibility. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. But other than that, I think all the other plots, you know, should be really good. I'm not really that concerned about it. So getting the plots in, getting some other stuff taken care of. My boys actually just painted the platform for my 360 blind, so that was nice. It just went up last year, so I didn't want to put anything on. You know, it's treated lumber, so I waited until this year, gave it time to dry out good. So they got that all painted up here this past week, so I appreciate that. Gave them a little job to do, make some money. So at this point, you know, it's basically just shooting and getting ready for archery season. Thanks again, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Give this video a like, subscribe to our channel. I'll have some more updates for you. I just wanted to show you a real quick 1 week what it looks like after planting. I think it turned out really well. We got the rain time just right. Now we just need some more rain to keep this stuff growing. If you got any questions for us, shoot us a comment and I'll get back to you.